Good afternoon, everyone. Louder, maybe? Hello and welcome to the Adelaide Convention Centre. Oh, thank you. That worked quite well. Thanks for coming on a Friday afternoon to the Convention Centre for our second Training Provider Forum. It's quite exciting today. We've got a different agenda for you, completely in response, we hope, to the feedback that was provided at the end of the last one. So you'll see through the day that we've got guest speakers all sitting here together, I think now, this afternoon, which is great. Just a few things though, just to remember that we are live streaming today as well. So in this room, we've got quite a lot of people. It's quite, I would say, almost quite full. And we've got just as many live streaming from wherever they may be. So that's actually really good. Such a popular way to get together, to network, to engage in what's happening in South Australia in VET. I think that's all I need to say there. But, you know, this is fantastic. What a great turnout for our second one. Secondly, I just would like to also say that we are going to use Slido again. Did anyone use that last time? Not as many. We'll go through how to use that later on. I think I might just move that forward a little bit. Just a little bit about the day. We do have a few people from the department. Some of them will be familiar to you. Myself, I'm from the department, Principal Training Products Consultant. It's been a while since I've delivered, but it's been not probably yesterday or even earlier today where I've spoken with a number of people about training already. I have to excuse my voice a little bit. I've been suffering from a cough for a while, so trying to catch my breath at the same time. I think the last thing, before we get on to specifics like housekeeping and get started, if you don't mind having your phones on silent, if you're expecting a call or off is even better. You will get a PDF of the PowerPoint today, so you can take happy snaps if you like of the PowerPoint. I'm sure there'll be interesting information, but it's not essential. You'll get it in its entirety, so that's good. Throughout the day, use Slido for forum feedback, for questions you may have. And I think then, oh, Emma, I can't get the bottom. Sorry. Doesn't matter, housekeeping. So the last thing is, if there is some sort of emergency or evacuation, we're actually going to follow the, convention, this may not work, convention staff out the building, but I think we do just follow their instructions. If you need to use the toilets, it's at the exit on the right. I think we're pretty familiar with the convention centre of where we need to go. And I think that's just about it for that part. So what I might do now is introduce Bill Wilson, who's... Well, I was going to introduce you properly, but I can't actually... can you? Because it's not... I can't seem to get what I need there. Sorry, Bill. Yeah, thank you, Bill. If you could welcome Bill to the stage for acknowledgement of country.
And I'll take ownership of that, Juliana, because I was supposed to send you an email yesterday saying what my current position in the department. I'm another person from the department. And honestly, I'm just checking which directors are here. That's a joke too. Our positions change from time to time. Nani Maputni, Nanari Bill Wilson, Nanari Gana Corney, Natalie Pendy, Natalie Gani Yatunga, Dignity. In Gana language, I pretty much said my name is Bill Wilson. I'm connected to both the Nurundjeri people in the Gana country, which is the Yurta that we're on at the moment, and a proud Aboriginal Nurundjeri and Gana man at that. I do a couple of things and I won't take any longer than the 2 minutes that I've been allocated, so you've got me for about 4. In observing the protocol of country, and I'm often asked to use this is the 4th this week, in the last 24 hours. I think about what I say and why I say what I say and the way that I say it, the language that I use in the context. And I change it up, I try to fit with the purpose of the forum that I'm speaking at. And I always say that acknowledging country for me, and hopefully this resonates with some of you or most of you in the room, that acknowledging country is not like just passing me minutes at a meeting, reading from a little card. I don't accept that, and I won't do it. I refuse to do it. But acknowledging country for me is an opportunity for Australia to realise that Australia is a country of many layers, and the most ancient of those layers being Aboriginal Australia, first and foremost. Secondly, acknowledging country also, for me, reminds me of a great gift that Aboriginal Australia has to offer. The culture, the survival that we can bestow on this country of ours, this nation that we're so proud of. We need to dive deeper into that space, I believe. And thirdly, and most urgently, this directly links with why we're in the same room at the same time, acknowledging country for me, and I'm hoping or wishing that it certainly resonates with you. Acknowledging country reminds me that there's a hell of a lot of unfinished business in this country, and that business relates to the rights and social justice outcomes for the first Australians. It also includes access to quality learning, training, and more importantly, to sustainable work opportunities for Aboriginal people. It starts with you, it starts with the teachers in schools, and it starts with us in the room that are in the game of pathwaying Aboriginal people and others in our community onto jobs. But given this, I want you to think about the following. I think I am. My daughter might not think this, but I think I act with humility. And in our sector, and as well as in the community sector, we need to think about what that means in the function that we do in our organisations and our systems. Humility is not about thinking less of yourself. It's actually about thinking of yourself less. C.S. Lewis said that. I think about that for a moment. It's not about thinking less about yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less. You're in this room because you care for others and you're a part of their journey into the field of work. Integrity, and we hear that and it flashes up on some of our public sector screens on a daily basis. What's it mean and how does it fit with who you are in the workplace when you sit your ass down on the chair? Sorry about the word chair. That's a test, Joe, to see if people are listening. It's about integrity. And integrity also requires some humility. In fact, quite a substantial amount of humility. And in these times, and for small organisations and even large ones like state government and the TAFEs of the world, I'm asking that we don't be too pessimistic. You know why? Because essentially the pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity, whereas the optimist sees an opportunity in every difficulty. Glass half full, glass half empty, what glass? Might say the pessimist. Winston Churchill said that. And finally, I think all of us need to be reminded, and that includes government, that not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts is counted. You think about the work that you do, particularly if you're a band counter, and we're in the game of funding and coming up with guidelines, you think about that when you're dealing with Aboriginal people. I implore you to do that. And that said, in the spirit of all of our ancestors, who do encourage us to persevere with our dreams for a better future for us and our children and their children, in a truly reconciled Australia, in this Reconciliation Week, I say on your behalf, Gana Miana, Gana Yata, Nakata.
Thank you, Bill. Some really good messages there as always, and quick, which was really good. He's known for taking a little bit of time. Our guest speaker, our first guest speaker for today is Adrienne Nieuwenhuis, and I'll invite her to come up to the stage in a minute. You'll have to excuse me for reading because in introducing Adrienne, her resume is long, her experience is vast. Oh, but I practiced. So, and we couldn't fit it all on the slide, so I don't have to read it all, but I'd like to, if that's okay. So currently, Adrienne is the Director at the Office of the Vice-Chancellor and Strategic Programs at the University of South Australia, and her role there where she oversees strategic activities across the university. Prior to this, Adrienne was a Director in the department back in the day when it was defeased, providing strategic leadership, policy advice and investment direction. In this role and others, she gained experience in regulatory services and worked closely with the Commonwealth Government in the establishment of the national regulatory systems for vet and higher education. In 2013, so we're coming up to here soon, Adrienne was appointed to the South Australian Training and to the Training and Skills Commission, and since her appointment has had several roles, including Chair of the Commission's Traineeship and Apprenticeship Subcommittee. In 2019, she was appointed Deputy Chair of the Commission and Chair of the Education and Service Sector Industry Skills Council, which is very exciting, I think, for this sector to have that experience on the council for that particular ISC. Adrienne is also the South Australian representative on the Australian Industry and Skills Committee. We're fortunate, very fortunate, to have Adrienne give her time today to speak with us and to us about the South Australian apprenticeship and traineeship system and the recent work of TASC. I welcome Adrienne to the stage. Thank you.
Yes, I'm going to have the interesting situation of old-fashioned paper, given my age, from that sort of biography that you just heard, and technology. So let's hope I don't knock something over. See? Here we go. So thank you for that introduction. It's always interesting to be reminded about one's career history and then think about one's age. And thank you, Bill, for that wonderful acknowledgement of country and your wise words and about the role of education in terms of societal good. It's terrific to be here today to speak with you. It's great to see that these forums are once again on the agenda. I always appreciated them when we ran the forums years ago when I was the regulator, as I always thought it was important in my time that not only did we regulate the system, but we developed the system. So it's great to see these forums happening again, and thank you for the organisers for doing that. So what am I talking about today? Yes, everything that RTOs need to know about our recent report on future-proofing the South Australian apprenticeship and trainee system. So I'll just... Oh, someone's actually nicely edited this for me. Did you do that? Thank you. There was a slide I was going to skip, and it already has been skipped. So people know me well. So yes, I'm going to go through our experience of investigating and putting together the recommendations of the Skills for Future Jobs series, and I'll leave some time for questions, and I think I'm also on the panel. So I hope there'll be plenty of time for us to have a conversation rather than me just talking at you. So first of all, by way of introduction in terms of the Commission's work, we launched the Skills for Future Jobs series in 2017 with the intention of developing in-depth policy work for government around a range of matters that are affecting skills development and education and training in South Australia. Under that series, we've delivered a range of things, including the Industry Priority Qualifications Report. The Commission's very proud of that report. Again, it's still in Australia one of the only examples of deep industry engagement to understand what the skill requirements of industry are. And it's always a delight to participate in that process because it's an opportunity to talk to people in a range of ways and an experience I hope that I can then move across into the beginning work of the Industry Skills Councils that we've now set up. We've also done things in around adult and community education. Every year we do our economic outlook report with the support of the department, and we've done some regional profiles. Again, one of the things the Commission does is make sure that twice a year we get out into the regions to hear what the industry requirements and skills requirements and training requirements and experiences out in the regions are. You know, in a state like South Australia with slim markets, it's always a challenge. But again, I take some of the words of Bill here. It's always important that we make sure that education and training is accessible to everyone, wherever they are. And then onward to the... actually, the Minister did say this to me the other day, and now I do agree with him. The very long title, The Future-Proofing of the South Australian Apprenticeship and Traineeship System Recommendations Paper, is the final piece of work in our series, in the 2020 series. So why do we do this work? Well, I'm a bit of a data junkie, and I have the delight of chairing the subcommittee, the Traineeship and Apprenticeship Subcommittee. And on an annual basis, we get a very thorough report from the department about the trends in our apprenticeship and traineeship system. And the trends are not great, and they haven't been great for a while. 5 consecutive, if not more, in fact, John, you'll be able to talk about this, 5 consecutive years of declining commencement rates, static, wobbly completion rates, which means in the combination of those two things, declining commencements and static completion rates, mean that the output out of the system is declining over time. This is really, really concerning at a time of economic change and changes in terms of the skills profile of our workforce. So the Commission wanted to understand what was behind this. And while some of the trends that we see can be attributed to policy and incentives, disincentives, changes over time, which I'm sure all of you might talk to me about, we wanted to understand whether there were other barriers that were causing these issues in the system. So in examining the system, we first of all went to the experts. So we initiated a very, very significant process of stakeholder engagement. We wanted to hear from the people who are experiencing the system, administering the system, teaching in the system, being trained by the system, what they thought of what was going on. And as you can see by the data up behind me, we got a really lovely and diverse range of feedback during our engagement. We did an online survey, we did phone interviews, we did site visits, we did forums, and we did workshops both in metropolitan and regional areas. We heard from employers, we heard from apprenticeship network providers, we heard from industry associations, unions, school vet providers, schools, various regional bodies that had something interest in apprenticeships and traineeships, state government. We heard from students themselves, apprentices, traineeships, heard from their parents. And of course, most importantly, we also heard from you folk. We heard from training providers and we heard from GTOs. And here I must acknowledge again how much we value the open and very generous contributions that people made to this process. It was really heartening to see how much people were engaged and how much they valued this system and wanted to see the system move forward and have its rightful place in the training system. So we got a lot of feedback. It was enormous. But it was interesting that as we read through that feedback, and yes, we read it all, I read it all, the common themes did emerge, and I'll talk about those in a few moments. The paper's long, the recommendations, there are 45 of them. Sorry about that, but actually I'm not sorry. There was a lot that we found and there was a lot that we want to try and fix and change. Some of them are low-hanging fruit, they're easy to do, some of them are a lot harder. So rather than, hold back, the view was of the Commission that we would go out with the 45 recommendations, much to the chagrin of some. So what did we find? So these are just the really big picture, and then I'll get into what RTOs, you folk, told us in particular. So the big takeaway was, as I said, the system is valued and it's actually far from broken. It's not that there are deep problems in the system. We heard a lot about how much people value the apprenticeships and trainees process, and so we don't want to change anything in particular. We just want to enhance it. And as I said, some of them are incremental changes, some of them are a bit deeper, but they're all manageable. Unsurprisingly, and I'm sure you will tell me about this in the question time or in the panel, everyone, whatever the stakeholder was, talked about the complexity of the system and the frustration about how to get information to the right people, the right sort of information at the right time. There is a lot of information out there, but sometimes you need to wade through it, and so people are often confused by the system. But everyone was in agreement that what we want in total is a production of high-quality skilled workers through a very valued, engaged process between industry and education. But what did you tell us? So the feedback from RTOs, of course, reflected on those previous points I've just talked about, but we also drilled down with RTOs into some of the deeper issues. You told us about administrative and process sticking points, which would provide some of the low-hanging fruit if we could just get those administrative issues solved. That also, you told us about ways in which we might improve information and about quality and timeliness. You commented a lot on funding, saying that the way in which the system is funded at the moment doesn't provide the right environment for employers, for you folk in engaging in the process and ensuring that we actually improve our completion rates. You told us about that traineeships have a poor reputation amongst some sectors and that sometimes the right individuals are not being recruited so that they don't complete their training, hence our problems with our completion rates. You also told us that you wanted more support to keep up to date. So in fact, not only did you comment on information for other users of the system, you also commented on the sort of information that you would like as a sector, so that you could run your business and get on with things rather than continually chasing the complex array of incentives or funding schemes or whatever. So, your comments were really valued from the point of view of what information does a student need right through to what information you, as a key component of the sector, also needs. What else did you tell us about? Yes, you told us a lot about the development of training plans. And this is one of those sticking points which I'm hoping through the recent announcement of the review of the Act that we can try and come to grips with. Your concerns were that sometimes this meant that students were signed up to the wrong course, or more often that the employer, the trainee in the apprenticeship didn't understand the training requirements associated with the apprenticeship or the traineeship. So there are many of the issues that we need to address from your perspective to improve the system. So back to the overarching document. So how do you make 45 recommendations and an awful lot of findings accessible and easy to read? So we set the document up into 5 key areas: repair, reform, support, promote and advance. Repair was about those things that we can do now, those low-hanging fruits that just solve things for all users. Reform went to the next step. We've got an existing regulatory environment which has the right intentions, which is to promote quality, but we also found that we should be rethinking some of that. Some of those guidelines, some of those regulatory processes are actually quite old, and are they fit for purpose in a modern apprenticeship and traineeship system? Support. That, once again, that's all about information. How do we support employers? How do we support young people to know where to find an apprenticeship? How to create the most constructive training and employment environment for young people, or for anyone who's doing apprenticeship and traineeship, not just young people. Sorry. I have this thing about young people because I have 3 boys at the moment. One's just started university and I've got twins in year 9, 10. And this is very dear to my heart at the moment about where my children are going to end up in the terms of the world for work. Promote was our 4th area, and the government has recently announced its advertising campaign. How do we lift the perception of apprenticeships and traineeships in the minds of particularly young people and their families to know that this is a very viable and productive and valued career path? I sometimes have to change hats. We often hear the conversations in the media and elsewhere about vet versus higher education. For someone like me who straddles both worlds, both have their role, but there are misperceptions on both sides of the fence around all of this. And I do most wholeheartedly agree that we need to promote apprenticeships and traineeships, and in particular actually traineeships, as viable and wonderful career opportunities for our young people. And finally, the last section was advance, and that's where we tried to, gaze into the future a bit. They were the stretch goals of our recommendations. More data. I'm sorry to say that. I'm a bit of a data person, but it always provides valuable insight. The reason we started this work is because we got deep into the data to look at the trends and look at the problems. So data is one thing, but also things like better forecasting skills demand you to better manage your businesses and start to think about where you might need to put resources, those sorts of things. So they were all the things that were covered in the advanced section of our report. And look, we see this as a we, not just the Commission as the we in this conversation, but for all players, including working together with, the department, working with our industry skills councils, with the Commonwealth, with yourselves, with employers. We see this as something that can only be made better by the collaborative work of all of us together. So what I thought I would just spend some time now is, I'm not going to talk about all 45 recommendations, we'll be here forever, and someone will take me off the stage. But I've picked out the recommendations that are precisely about the RTO perspectives that we picked up in this, and I'll just quickly run through them, and then there'll be time for more conversation and questions, I hope. So in the repair section, one of our recommendations was around the systems. Sorry, John, but you know this, it's okay. He just smiles, yes. This was about, is Atlas fit for purpose? Is it doing what it needs to do? How can we facilitate better flow of information around commencement so that RTOs who are, managing training plans and all those sorts of things have the right information at the right time? And can be more proactive in their part in that, tripartite arrangement between employer and employee and the training provider, and can we improve the systems? There's always going to be a system recommendation. So in another recommendation was all around training packages. I have the interesting experience at the moment to recently appointed to the Australian Industry and Skills Committee, and it reminds me once again that we have a fantastic national system, but we also have a very slow system, and I continually be astounded at the time it takes for a training package to be changed, to be approved, to be whatever. So we see that as a state we need to be as involved as possible in the national system to get the right outcomes for our state. And that's one that's becoming more and more dear to my heart as I read an agenda with 2,800 pages in it. Now, when I get an agenda that has 2,800 pages for one meeting of the Australian Industry and Skills Committee, something tells me somewhere that we've got something slightly wrong with that amount of volume of documentation to understand how to make our training system better or how to get our training packages working. And that's just one meeting. So I am a little astounded by all of that, a conversation I have to have with my Commonwealth colleagues. So then another recommendation that the department continue to invest in VET by providing sustainable funding for training providers and also in particular in critical regions or in critical industries. Look, that just goes without saying that the economy is changing, skill needs are changing, and we need a flexible system that goes to where we need to go. So, for example, on this apprenticeship and traineeship subcommittee recently approved a traineeship in a Cert 4 in cybersecurity. How can we keep ahead of the game? How can we keep creating opportunities where a traineeship or an apprenticeship is the right vehicle for training, that work-based component and all those sorts of things, rather than just the traditional trades or some of the more traditional traineeships that we know of? How do we keep advancing? How do we keep going forward? And then this is another one where it's all about how we keep everyone talking at the same time and joining the dots so that when someone is signed up, we're getting the training contract, the training plan and everything in the right place at the right time. We heard, conversations about training plans holding up the approval of the training contract and things like that. And it just seems to be that there's a system-y thing, business process thing there that we really do need to come to grips with and solve. And as I said, I hope that the review of the Act may help us solve some of that. And again, I'd love to hear more from you about that particular issue. Another one was, we can always learn from others. So look at the New South Wales experience in developing supervisor training. So this was, again, something that came through loud and clear, was that on the job, people who are supervising apprenticeships and traineeships find themselves challenged by that process, which means that perhaps the apprentice or the trainee is not getting the best out of their experience. I always worry when I hear those sort of intergenerational things like, young people today, they've always got their face in front of their phone and they can't do anything. Actually, that's sort of, Bill, I think of you again about glass half full, glass half empty. These are the nature of our people. This is the generation. They are digitally native. They have a world of information and knowledge at their fingertips, and they learn slightly differently to what I learned 30 or 40 or whenever it was years ago. And I actually think it's a responsibility of us to understand how we can best get the most out of our young people. And this is what this recommendation is about. How do we help people who are supervising young people get the most out of the investment they're making in that person while training on the job? Oh, so this one was just again around, sorry, I had to read that one. I've lost my place a little bit. This is, as I said before, this is a data one. How do we get more data, better data, greater insight, not just to know what's going on now, but to understand what we need to understand for the future and how we can better plan for the future. I'm always mindful of the fact that RTOs are small to medium-sized businesses. You have to run a business. And the more information and knowledge you have of what's coming for you allows you to plan more proactively. So this one, again, I think is quite important for us to help you understand what's coming up and how you will prepare for it. It's the same in my role in the university system. There is a certain lag between seeing there's a need and tooling up the right sort of training or the right sort of educational program. So the more that we can know about that, the better that is for everybody in the system. So that was a very quick run through of some of the recommendations. And there are. Have we got copies? Did we? Oh, yeah, there's copies. So you can all grab one as your reading material on a Friday night over a drink. Take it home with you. But I'd also love to hear from you about what you think of the report and some of the recommendations. Look, the work has begun. We've got a ways to go, but I think that we've got a solid base to start with. And as I said before, the Commission really looks forward to working with you in this very important space. As I've also alluded to in my talk this afternoon, the Minister last week also launched the review of the Training and Skills Development Act, something that actually we've needed to do for some time, given that great sections of it were out of date when I worked in the department. So, and again, it's a terrific opportunity to think about what we want the system to look like in the future and how we create the right regulation rather than necessarily the bureaucracy to create that system. So, yes, I encourage you to remain engaged. I look forward to working with you both in my capacity in the Commission and also through the Industry Skills Council, because I chair the Education and Services Sector Council. And these are some of the topics that we'll continue to talk about and work together on. Thank you. Questions? So what do I have to do?
Well, you have to sit down.
Oh, I'm going to go. Oh, sorry. I thought it was going to... No, it's all on the panel.
It's all on the panel. But thank you.
I read my running sheet.
No, that's okay. That's fine. I should have read the running sheet too, because I forgot to remind people to log on to Slido at the beginning. I asked you if you had used it before and I got a raise of hands, but I didn't say so could you log on. So at your tables is the instructions on how to do that. So if you just want to, if you haven't already, because I imagine the people that said yes we have done it already, but for those of you that haven't, if you wouldn't mind just connecting, if you want to ask questions today of Adrienne in a moment, but other panel members as I introduce them, the www.sli.
And they generally last for 4 years, and it's partially on-the-job training and partially off-the-job training, and usually that apprenticeship, or genuinely that apprenticeship, would be undertaken under a qualified tradesperson. A traineeship, on the other hand, generally lasts between 12 to 24 months. It's predominantly on-the-job training. Sometimes there is an off-the-job component, but predominantly it's on-the-job, supervised by a supervisor, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a qualified tradesperson.
I'm just going to plug the report again. You remember, reading tonight over a glass of wine. We actually talk about that distinction in the report and the confusion that generates, and actually it's one of the questions that you folk raised with us, is the relative merits or the value or the quality between an apprenticeship and traineeship from the perception of young people and families, that traineeships tend to be second-class citizens. And some of that wonderful distinction that is not actually well understood in the system and in the sector. So that's something that we've actually said in our report that we need to think about a little more closely. You know, just again, the other day on the apprenticeship panel, we had a particular area that's run a traineeship for years ask for it to be converted to an apprenticeship. And one of the reasons for that was the perception of an apprenticeship relative to the perception of a traineeship. That's of concern. They have different purposes. Both are important purposes, but it's not clearly understood what the distinctions are. And, you know, this is another ground zero opportunity to think about what should be the distinction rather than the historical distinction that we currently see.
Thank you. This one's probably for you, Adrienne, I believe. How can my RTO be more involved in the development of training packages?
Good question, because it's made me think of having my reading of the 2,800 pages. I actually don't know right now, to tell you the truth. I can give you a whole lot of personal views on that, but it is something that I'm actually quite mindful of. So we talk about an industry-led vet system, and I have no problems with that. We do need to be, and in fact it's industry-led in terms of higher ed as well. When you're training for the professions or you're training for the technical workforce and the skilled workforce, we do need to understand what industry requires. But what that means is the pendulum seems to have swung quite to one side, and the value understanding that the RTO also brings to the conversation seems to be diminished. So do you connect with the SSOs, the folk that are actually developing the training packages? Sometimes I've looked at the membership of each of the national IRCs, and sometimes RTOs on them, sometimes they're not. It's quite variable depending upon the area or the training package. So I see this as something that needs to be talked about and solved. It was interesting reading the Stephen Joyce report about Into the Vet System, because he remarks on some of this as well. So I don't have an answer right now, but one of the things we do at the moment is work through the department. So when training packages are up for some sort of review, the department does do their own consultation and provides that feedback to me as part of the Industry and Skills Committee, but also feeds that into the standard process. But is it a robust feedback process? I'm not sure. So I don't have an answer now, but I think it's one where we do need an answer.
Thank you. John, I'd like to know, is there a specific supervision guideline for specific industries?
I could take the very easy option and just say no, and that's the end of the question, or the answer, sorry. But just to expand on that a little bit, at the moment, no, there is not industry-specific supervision guidelines. There are supervision guidelines for apprentices. They are one-to-one in the first couple of years and they become more relaxed thereafter. and for traineeships, they're a little more relaxed than what they are for an apprenticeship. They're 1 to 5. That's the current situation. The Training Skills Commission future-proofing paper, the consultation and some of the feedback that came back through that consultation was pretty strong around supervision. There was some industries that said we think it's a little bit too stringent, it's restrictive, and it's preventing us from getting on with our business, the current guidelines. But there was also some feedback that came back and said, no, we think it's not too bad, and we think it's appropriate that it enables us to provide the right level of support and guidance to ensure that learners coming through the system are getting a quality training experience. They're getting the right support, and they're being showed, due to the supervision requirements, how to do the job properly. So one of the things we're going to be exploring as part of the review process through the Training Skills Commission is just going back through industry and finding out whether industry-specific supervision guidelines are appropriate and how that'll work. If it means that in some industries we keep them as they are and in some industries we need to review and perhaps relax, we'll certainly take that on board and see what that looks like.
Thanks,
Would you
John.
like to add anything else to that, Adrian?
Jay, I'm conscious that you're being let off the hook at the moment, and I'm not going to let that happen. So what's the role of an Australian Apprenticeship Support Network, and how does it integrate with the role of the department as far as TAS goes?
So here in South Australia, there are 3 ASINs that provide services on behalf of the Commonwealth. Our role is to market and promote the uptake of apprenticeships and traineeships, and to also administer the various incentives that are payable to either the employer and the apprentice and trainee. In addition to that, there's also targeted services that we deliver, known as both Gateway and In Training, and that's about assisting with the right candidate up front, and then through the In Training component, there's a mentoring element which is about increasing successful completion. In terms of our relationship with the state, when we complete the contract of training on behalf of the Commonwealth, that contract of training is then electronically lodged with the Department of Industry and Skills, or better known as the State Training Authority, and as the state regulator, they then approve that training contract or take the appropriate action as the state regulator.
Great, thank you. The questions keep moving on Slido, so I'm having trouble following them, okay? Troy, what is the role of a GTO and how is it different to a direct indentured apprenticeship employment?
Sure, so probably a little bit about us as an organisation. As Julianne mentioned at the start, we were formerly known as Group Training Australia SA. We're now known as the Apprentice Employment Network SA. We're a non-for-profit organisation that have basically 21 members, so we've got 19 full members and 2 associate members. And all of those members are group training organisations. So under a group training model, some of you will be familiar with the way it works, the group training organisation become the legal employer of the apprentice or the trainee, and they place that apprentice or trainee with what we call a host employer. The benefits that you have is that all of our GTOs, the majority of which are non-for-profit also, they're bound by what we call the national standards for group training, as audited by the Department for Innovation and Skills. And there are certain criteria that we have to meet to ensure that we're behaving ethically and that inherently that we're looking after our apprentices and trainees and making sure that as the legal employer they're getting the care that they need. The predominant difference is when you are employed under group training, you're appointed a mentor or what we refer to as a field officer. And that field officer basically becomes your pastoral care guide or your mentor through the period of your traineeship or apprenticeship. So under the national standards, the field officer is required to visit the apprentice in the workplace a minimum of 6 times a year. Anecdotally, you'll find that our GTOs visit that apprentice or trainee probably more in the space of 10 or 12 times a year, particularly in the first 2 years when they're vulnerable. And the beauty of it is, under the group training model, the apprentice or trainee has somebody who they can turn to in a time of need. So if they need extra help with their training or their on-the-job supervision, they get looked after for workplace health and safety, personal protective equipment. So the beauty of that is there's an extra layer of pastoral care available to an apprentice or trainee to assist them in the retention within the apprenticeship or the completion. Whereas when you're direct indentured, you're pretty much on your own, and the relationship relies very much between the employer and the apprentice, so there's not that extra third party to assist.
Fantastic, thank you. Adrienne, this kind of follows on an earlier question around the sort of delineation between a traineeship and an apprenticeship. Is there an appetite to merge them so there is no difference as apparent in other states?
Well, that is one of the options, that we don't have this weird bifurcation, and that would then buy into some of the conversation around supervision and nature of supervision. It would then go to terms and all those sorts of things, and that we become more responsive in terms of the model, whatever it should be, that suits that particular industry or that particular area of the workforce. So I'm of two minds about whether we should do that or not. I'm not the expert here, but that is one of the questions that is out there for us to start to think about, and it is certainly in the paper. There is part of me personally that thinks that the distinction is unnecessary and creates a funny confusion for people who are not familiar with the term traditional trade, for example, or not and even words like indenture. Like, do we need to talk like that anymore? I don't know. It is one of the ones we'll do some further consultation on, and I think there is an opportunity to think about that, because it goes to what people perceive apprenticeships and traineeships to be, and if we can change the name or bring the two together, if that actually helps the situation, then I'm all for it, but I am not the expert, and it's one where we need to consult.
Thank you. John, where would I find information on employer responsibilities to taking on an apprentice or trainee, including WorkSafe SA expectations?
Okay, a couple of different avenues. The easiest and most comprehensive will be on our website. So the skills.sa.gov.au has got comprehensive materials on all the rights and obligations and pathways that both learners and employers will need. You can also give us a call. One of our friendly operators are standing by, waiting to take your call.
We'll put John's mobile up on the screen later, okay?
So more than happy to take your queries through there. And again, we get thousands of phone calls every year around both students and employers just looking to check out what their rights and obligations are. The area around SafeWork is somewhere where we tread a little bit carefully. We don't pretend to be occupational health and safety or workplace safety specialists. There is a complete another government department that does that, and we're happy to make that connection. We certainly work fairly closely with them just to maintain the welfare of learners through their learning journey. But we're not going to pretend that we know everything about workplace health and safety. But by all means, if you're struggling to make a connection with SafeWork, get in touch with us, and we'll happily help you make that connection.
Great. And while you've got the mic, let's talk about how long it takes to register an employer.
Well, how long it takes now compared to how long it used to take, say, 6 months ago, I'm proud to report is significantly improved. So the Marshall Liberal government came in just over a year ago, last March, and one of their election commitments was that they were going to help streamline the registration process. So at the time that the government came in, registrations were taking somewhere around 6 weeks to get through. That was a frustration for employers, it was a frustration for learners. The employers just wanted to get a learner on board and help them grow their business, and the learners were just keen to, roll up their sleeves and start their qualification. We've had a very close look at the process. We've worked very closely with our colleagues, the network providers, the GTOs and everyone in the process. We've developed an online solution. Where previously it was very much a labour-intensive site visit where we would come out and work through the process, and that's predominantly what was taking up the most time in the process, just getting in the queue for a site visit. We're now doing a lot of that desktop. We're getting all the information we need online. If we need to check anything out, we'll hop on the phone and make a phone call to either the employer or the learner. And I'm pretty pleased to say that the process from what it was around 6 weeks is now taking somewhere around 10 days or thereabouts. So it's a lot quicker than what it used to be.
Jay, can you verify that?
I was actually going to say 1 to 2 weeks, John, so there you go. Yeah.
Great. Look, I'm open to who this question goes to, but I'm thinking, Jay, your experience might be really helpful here. So how are employers allowed to sign off an apprentice once they've finished their trade school, even if they're only maybe halfway through their apprenticeship?
So I guess it comes back to competency-based learning. So in relation to the sign-off of an apprentice or trainee earlier than that nominal duration, that is based on the RTO issuing the qualification, which I'm sure everyone in the room is familiar with, and signing off by both the employer and the apprentice or trainee on that completion application that goes through to the State Training Authority. So given that competency-based learning is in place, certainly early completion does come into play.
Great. Now, Troy, I think this one might be a good one for you to chip into. So traineeships are difficult to utilise in industries that are highly casualised. Is this being looked into? What are the options?
Look, we're always open to suggestion around traineeships, and when the government speak about apprenticeships having dropped off since 2012. Really, the traditional trades have been pretty much flatlining over the last decade, I suppose, and there hasn't been much change. But obviously, traineeships did take a fair hit when Skills for All, I think it was called at the time. The funding was cut predominantly in that traineeship area, so there was a fairly rapid decline in the traineeship market. I think it is something that we need to address. It is a very viable career path to...
That's better, thank you. First of all, just an apology. I know Emma has already on Slido. We did earlier lose live streaming for a moment, but I think it's back on again. And this is more for the people that are at home or wherever they are, just to connect again, and I think it's good to go. So apologies for that earlier technical glitch. Just another thing to build on what Callan has said, a very hot topic, and it's just going to keep getting votes. So we might as well acknowledge that it is a serious question that I think everybody in the training world understands, and Adrian alluded to it as well, and that's the question at the top if you're looking at Slido on compliance. So we understand that it's an issue for RTOs. We understand that it's something they want to find a solution to. And I guess you would be aware already that on our website, when you go to training providers and engage with us in professional development opportunities, there are lots listed. The other thing that we also have going is a community of practice. And one of the big topics is compliance, where we just have it professionally facilitated actually, but also it will allow RTOs to engage and put all the issues out and unpack what some of the solutions might be, at least here in this state. There already are some people that have indicated interest. Emma Nankivell is the contact person. You will have her contact details at the end of this slide if you want to be a part of that community of practice. It's not an ongoing thing at this stage, but we do understand that RTOs want to come up with some solutions so that they have quality training without putting all their resources into compliance, when really they want to be putting their resources into the development of what the student is experiencing, a really proactive assessment process that everybody can enjoy. Actually, one of those few people that think a student can enjoy an assessment. So we understand, we have something ready. Emma's the girl to get in touch with, and we will address it, but we won't address it here because we probably won't be able to in the short time that we have. It actually needs some serious attention. So thank you for that. And the other questions, as Callan said, will be answered. There's some here that could probably answer now, but I think we'll just save our time, respond to you, and I'm sure you'll be quite pleased with the responses there. Everybody that came up on stage, thank you so much. I think that to have you here today is wonderful. You've all got great expertise. You all know we're lucky in Adelaide. People are not hard to find. We do have, I think you may have seen Marina already, to say thank you to you for sharing your time with us. Now, at the last forum, something that people really wanted was an example of some Skilling South Australia projects. A number of you have, I know we've got lots and lots that have come to the department. We've got many contracted out and starting. Thank you, Adrienne, for your time. You can leave quietly. No one will notice. It's fine. Thank you again. So because of that, we thought we might just highlight just two today. There are some really good ones, some really interesting ones out there, but we thought that, we have, I don't know if they volunteered or were asked, but they're here ready to present. And the first one is from Enhanced Training, the Hessel Group. So I'm going to invite Daryl Tan to the stage. Daryl really just wants himself introduced as the Operations Manager at the Hessel Group, which includes Enhanced Training. I actually happen to know there's a lot more to the man, and those of you that work with him would know that too, but he's a humble person as well. So the Hessel Group has been providing quality care, support and training in South Australia for 20 years. The RTO specialises in the early childhood and disability qualifications and is also an employer for disability support workers and early childhood educators. His project is engaging people in a pre-apprenticeship program to meet the growing demand for the disability sector workforce. Thank you. Welcome, Daryl, to the stage.
Thanks, Juliana. Before I start, I would just like to acknowledge the department, thank them for giving us the opportunity to be part of the Skilling South Australia initiative, and also thank for all the help that they have rendered to us, especially the business advisors who has helped us a lot through this process. As Juliana has mentioned, my name is Daryl. I'm the Operations Manager of the Hessel Group, of which Enhanced Training is part of. And we do specialize in two main qualifications, that is in childcare and in disability. So this particular, we were awarded two Skilling South Australia projects in March. One was in disability and the other one is in childcare. So for the purpose of this forum, I will be talking about the disability sector one. Both of them have similar approaches. Feel free to chat with me or Shona, who's my colleague over there, during the break if you want to find out about more. So in March, we got awarded the two Skilling South Australia projects. As the name suggests, it is a pre-traineeship program, and this training program is meant to steer potential trainees before they sign a traineeship contract. So it's a training program before the training program. Make sense? Okay. So in any case, this program has two main aims. So one of them is for participants to kind of get a glimpse into the industry. Many of times we find that participants or students, when they enroll in any courses, right, they either have uncertainty in the course or unrealistic expectations of the industry. So this 1 month course is supposed to steer them and get them to have a glimpse. On top of that, they will also get a foundation to confidently enter the sector. So prior to doing the traineeship or employment, so that will actually increase their chances of being committed and dedicated. The other purpose is also for the employer to now be part of the development of a training program. We did a lot of co-design projects with the employer. In this case, the employer was a GTO, CEG. We also engaged with the industry. For this project, we did it with the National Disability Service, NDS. Hi. We did a lot of consultations in order to develop this program. So at the end of it, the employer and industry also benefit from this kind of program because they are involved in it, and they can ultimately, after 1 month of a pre-traineeship program, right, be able to recruit a trainee who is more dedicated, more informed, and have basic knowledge. So I'm going to just talk about how we ran the project. There are a couple of milestones here, a couple of stages. So the first part was the co-designing. Co-designing, like I said, we engaged the employer, CG. The RTO, obviously, is enhanced training, and industry, and in this case was NDS. So we sat down, we consulted, we chat about the non-accredited portions, things that were missing, things that our employer would like to see, a potential trainee or potential staff would like to have before they embark on traineeship or employment. After that, we did the information and selection sessions. So that's where we engaged all participants. We got the participants through several means, the normal job active and job service providers, referral and inquiries from newspaper ads, our normal social media. And what we did this time around was also quite unique. We actually partnered with another RTO, actors. They're all seated over there. They actually kind of lend us their students, those initial part. The students that were enrolled in their Cert 3 in individual support, disability focused program, they came to us first, did this pre-traineeship program, and then after we get a base for them, they are being ported over to actors so that they can continue with their Cert 3. So I truly believe in collaborations and working with RTO, even though we are in the same industry. I think it's a good way to go. So after, during the info and selection session, the RTO obviously explained about the training program. The industry, we invited NDS to come along. They spoke to the participants about the industry as a whole, potential pathways that the disability sector can offer. And the employer being a GTO, CG, they talked about traineeships and apprenticeship and the pathway, as well as employment. So it really gives the participant a holistic and very clear view on what this program entails. During the selection session, which is the same day as the info session, so after all the presentations, all of the partners were also involved in selecting the students. So the RTO did the very famous upfront assessment of needs. So that's what we do. The industry, they just hover around, asked a few questions. The GTO, as the employer, did their basic interviews as well as suitability screening. After that was done, we all sat down together. We selected the students together collaboratively, and they were all enrolled into the Educare Disability pre-traineeship program. So that's a month-long training program. It has accredited courses, accredited units in it, non-accredited units. So non-accredited units will be under the consultation with the industry and the employer. So it covers such things as behavior and cultural awareness, and things like the NDIS, right? So anything that the employer or the industry needs, right, we take it in and then we produce a unit out. We also found out that a lot of people require computer skills, so we added a day of computer skills training in there. This is also something quite special. We did a health and fitness workshop. We actually engaged a personal trainer who has been working in the disability industry for quite some time. She came over and spoke about nutrition, basic exercises. Okay, so all this just adds holistic view to the training. It makes it a bit more exciting, we hope. And PD sessions, so things like interview, resume writing skills, so on and so forth. And obviously, we organize site visits as well. So in that month-long program, they're going through all this training. Towards the end, the last week, they do the site visit. And we had very, very good feedback from the site visit. The employers actually found a difference in the confidence and the knowledge of the students as compared to when they first met them. So that is a huge milestone for us, and we know that the pre-traineeship program is working. After our Educare Disability Training Program, all of the participants will get to kind of meet the employer and engage in employer-focused pre-employment program. So that's where they talk about the policies and procedures, and everything it does to kind of like an induction into the program. And then after that, finally, they get to sign the traineeship contract and continue to do the Cert 3. Right, so that's the crux of it. So obviously there are a couple of challenges and barriers. As some of the panel has pointed out, right? This sector is it's a casualized sector, so it's historically low take-up of traineeships, and because of that, right, our referrals from job actives has not been as popular as our other courses. They also may have limited knowledge of the potential pathways, and that's where the industry could really help. I mean, the NDS came over here, they explained, about the potential pathways, so it gives a better view. And the other challenge that we face is that the traineeship contract is signed about 2 months after they commence the course. Now, most of the time, some of the students may drop out or think that it's too long because their objective is primarily to get employment. But fortunately, in this case, we're happy to report that this is not the case, because we truly believe, right, and also based on the employer's feedback, right, that even though they take a bit longer to sign a traineeship contract, but they are definitely more confident and better prepared to step into the sector. So where we are up to now, right? So we started in March. We ran about 2 intakes. Up to now, we have about 22 students who have either completed or are close to completion. We are planning our 3rd intake sometime in the end of the month, in June. As of now, it is 100% attendance, no withdrawals at all. Okay, so to me, that is a huge win for now. Yeah. And then, so like I said, the first intake have already started their pre-employment training with CEG. Second intake, which is the group from Actors, they'll be doing their Educare Disability now. They'll be finishing in about a week's time, and then after that, going to the training with CEG. And our 3rd intake will be planned for June. So overall, we have a quota of about 30 students to take in. And judging from how it's going, right, we could expect our first trainee to be signed up somewhere in August and September. All right, so I've really said this throughout. I mean, I believe that this pre-traineeship model and having close collaborations with industry, employers, as well as RTOs, right, would help us a lot, right? So in turn, the employer and the organizations who's taking up these trainees would have more dedicated and committed staff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Darryl. No, in the middle, somewhere's fine. Thank you. Thank you, Darryl. That was actually quite interesting. You can see the co-design, I suppose, methodology in some of the Skilling South Australia projects from that one. And I think what was really interesting was the quite a high degree of partnership arrangements, especially between RTOs who actually deliver the same qualifications, and yet it seems to be working out quite well. So it's about synergies and strengths and where the learners are, where the employers are, and getting the outcomes. So I think that's a really good project that has been put together. I imagine it did take a fair bit of thought, and I'm glad that it's at the point where it is now. So congratulations on that. Remember your questions for Slido, because in a minute you'll have that opportunity after our next presenter has given his quite different experience with the Skilling South Australia project. So I'd like to introduce Richard Finlayson to the stage. Richard runs Quality Training and Hospitality College, which has campuses here and in Sydney, and has been offering accredited hospitality training since 1992, which is 24 years ago. I know that because my son was born that year. Oh, no, take it. No, 26, the other son. Sorry. Oops-a-daisy. Soon to be 27. Richard also owns Quality... See, I shouldn't make jokes. I'm actually not good at them. So Richard also owns Quality Catering Adelaide Zoo, Adelaide Hospitality Jobs and Hospitality Hire. Richard is on the Restaurant and Catering SA Council and is immediate past chair for ACPET in South Australia. His project has focused on increasing uptake of cookery apprenticeships. So I'd like to welcome Richard to the stage. Thank you very much. And
I'd also like to start by thanking my friends in the department, Chris, Ziggy, John, for the support of our organisation. Our programme has a bit of a different challenge, and it starts with the name. We always have more employers than apprentices, so we wanted to try and make the name a bit sexy, so we called it Apprentice Today, Chef for Life, for an aspiration that if you start an apprenticeship, you can become a chef, and it is a job for life, one of the very few jobs for life. So the concept was to attract more suitable candidates. Sometimes when we're putting together proposals for the department, our industry and the department's boxes don't always match. So it's very hard for us to get 32 employers to say at the end of a course they'll take apprentices, but we always have employers. So there was a little bit of flexibility. We named a whole load of employers, and not all our apprentices ended up with the employers that we named, but they all got apprenticeships. So our program was more around trying to encourage more people to do apprenticeships. And we had 3 basic units. Those units are very generic and are really a good starting point, not just for cookery, but also for hospitality in general. Hygiene, safe work practices, and work effectively with others. We did that as an induction training. We're very flexible. So sometimes we put groups together, 10 to 12 students, and other times we had as little as 2 students with a trainer, just getting them through those basic induction units. So the plan, engage an ex-apprentice as a graduate mentor. So we have what we call the graduate mentor program, where our ex-students come to the college and speak to our students. We have a job seeker ex-mentor who did a course and got a job as a result of that course. We have an apprenticeship mentor, and we have an overseas student as a mentor. We can say great things, obviously, about our college, but there's nothing better than an ex-student coming to speak to the group. Start promotional campaign to attract more candidates. I'll talk more about that. Promotions to include social media, radio, schools, and job active providers. Employ staff to focus purely on recruitment and placement and going around to the different bodies I've just mentioned to spread the word. Conduct regular information sessions, once again very flexible. Generally we find information sessions in the afternoon are better received. People are often in bed in the mornings. But we learned that through trial and error. And to employ a project manager to coordinate the program. Implementations. So Matt Fitton he was a mature age apprentice, completed his apprenticeship in 2014 through our company and working at the Playford Hotel across the road. And so we engaged him. He was also 2016 Restaurant and Catering Chef of the Year. So 2 years after graduating, he was the Chef of the Year. So he has a really good story. So we engaged him as the apprenticeship mentor. We ran a cross-promotion on Cozzy's Facebook page, a bit of a plug for Cozzy. We do quite a lot with him. He's got about 175,000 followers, and he put some of our posts on his Facebook page to try and encourage people to information sessions. He also had an interview with Matt Fitton. We ran a radio campaign on Fresh FM. We visited a number of job active providers, and we visited a number of schools. The results. Also, I must say that Matt turned up to speak to a group of apprentices or aspiring apprentices, and he was a tiny bit late, and I was standing outside, and he turned up in a Mercedes sports car, and if I'd thought of it beforehand, I would have hired it for him, because you should have seen the look on these apprentices' eyes, that some guy that graduated an apprenticeship only a few years ago was now driving a Mercedes sports car. And Cozzy found him so interesting, I actually interviewed him on 107.1. He's now a private chef. So So we filled our initial contracted numbers. The program started in late November. We didn't do too much then. Obviously, hospitality is very busy, and employers don't speak to you as much as you'd like them to. But we managed to fill our first quota in late February. We achieved our contracted numbers of outcomes in early March. And the department kindly allocated us another 27 places, which was fantastic. And as I say, hopefully they understand our business, that we won't get 27 employers to say in 3 months' time or 6 weeks' time we'll employ apprentices, but we do have plenty of employers, and we've been doing this for years. We've always got more employers than people looking to do apprenticeships. And we need to achieve another 25 commencements. And to date, we've achieved an additional 22 enrollments. So we're close to our final target. The challenge is, many schools don't encourage apprenticeships or traineeships. It's a shame, and I understand, and we're trying to change that. We as an industry are trying to change that. Certain demographics of schools we've had very little joy with, which is frustrating because, as you can see, the results of apprenticeships are sensational. We only managed to see 20% of job active providers. We put emails out and phone calls out and so on to try and visit them, but only around about 20% engage with us. Once again, it's disappointing. I understand they're very busy and they probably get bombarded with providers, but when we have an issue where we have more full-time jobs than people, it would be good to engage with more. Employers still are very fussy. They want an apprentice to start today and be cooking a la carte dishes tomorrow. Which is a bit of a challenge, and we try and educate them. And listen, we've worked with a lot of long-term, really great employers who understand, but some of the newer ones, we're trying to create a bigger market. Some of the newer ones aren't quite as engaged. We still have a shortage of good applicants, and oh, my last one's not there. Okay. Yeah, the last one was basically it's hard to operate in the regulatory environment that we're currently in. Bit of an elephant in the room, but I think enough said about that. Thank you.
Just for a moment, I've just been told we don't have many, no, we do have some time, but not a lot of time, so I'm actually restricted to one question each. Now, I just notice here that there is a question specifically for Richard first, but I'm hoping one or two questions, but one. Richard, did you engage Cosy as a social media influencer, or are you just very well connected? But we might pause on that one. And instead, so in your traineeship and apprenticeship program, you're only delivering 3 units, or how do you get the placements with just those 3 units? Is that for you?
That'd be for me, yeah.
Richard? Yeah, thank you.
It's pre-training, so it really is just getting the people job ready. In hospitality, it's always been the case, and I think before I retire or after I've retired, it will still be the case. The number one thing someone's looking for is attitude, and then those other basic skills that they know how to wash their hands after they've been to the toilet, very important when you're cooking, and a few other health and safety and how to work with others. So we find if they've got the right attitude, they understand that it probably means working Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, etc., then the employer will give them a go. As I say, some employers still getting educated that they want them to go on the pass on the first day, but generally speaking, those 3 together with the right attitude is all they really need.
Thank you. There's another question here, which I think is a really good one. It covers off on some of the things that I think both Darryl and Richard discussed. I'm not sure who would like to answer it, but it's many training providers are reaching out to similar partners or referrals like, well, probably job actives or trying to get into schools or DES or group training. The question is, could we do this together better? And I guess the answer would always be we probably can find a way. But if I could ask either of you or both of you the challenges that you had in doing that, but what were the go-to tips if anybody else wants to do it? What's sort of needed to make sure it's a success?
So obviously the relationship with job actives has to be there, but sometimes we do find that the turnaround for job active people is quite high. So the main thing, I guess, for ourselves, right, is to maintain a relationship. When someone is leaving, we are proactive and ask to be introduced to whoever we're taking over. And also, we try to be as flexible as we can. I mean, we have job actives that would only refer 1 or 2 students to us, and then we would just go down and meet them and say, you know, why don't you get like 10, 20 people and we'll come to you and we'll do info session at your place, you know, instead of you just referring. It's a matter of just throwing out the net, I think, and just capturing a few. And obviously there will be a lot of innovative ways to get more referrals and students. One of the things we tried this time round was to approach another RTO.
Daryl, can you just hold on to that for a minute? There's another question, which is also a good one, probably to any industry where this is the general workforce. Was it hard to convince a casualised industry or an employer in that industry to take on trainees? Is that too hard? Sorry. Was it hard? What was...
In this case, right, in this project that we're doing, because we partner with an employer direct, so that kind of becomes their problem. I'm just joking, but yeah, I think in casualization, yes, it is difficult. For example, we operate in a childcare space as well, so we do intend to hire a trainee for one of our services. But being a small operator, right, we can only hire one. So a partnership, an exclusive partnership with an employer is quite difficult. So I mean, if you can, I would suggest to either go for bigger employers or if you want an exclusive training program, or go to a GTO. I find working with a GTO quite helpful.
Thank you. Probably the last question we have time for. There is another Ask a question, but I think I've already addressed that before. So, did you post them? No. Look, it's not the white elephant in the room because I think we know what it is, but we do as a department understand that some of our RTOs are finding that stressful, and as I said before, we are very interested in engaging with you and unpacking it and seeing what we can do. So I guess we won't go into that today, but you know, you can keep voting. That question will be answered, or you'll be directed to a way that we can maybe try and help. But this other question, I think it's the last one, and I've lost it. I'll find it. Oh, did the pre-apprenticeship program lead to a qualification outcome or a statement of attainment? Oh, sorry, Daryl, that was for you. But where's your other question?
The pre-traineeship program only leads to a statement of attainment, you know, because the intention is if they do sign a traineeship contract, they will be, you can do credit transfer straight away for the full qualification. So that is the intention. So definitely, to answer that question, it is just a statement of attainment. But having said that, the accredited units that we chose, right, it is industry specific. It is asked by the employer. So in our case, we did accredited units that will enable them to start work almost immediately. So things like manual handling, first aid, provide individualized support units, those kind of units. So I guess when we are selecting accredited and non-accredited units, we also have to be fairly careful and consult the industry employers.
Thank you, Daryl. Sorry, Emma, one last question, and this one is for you, if that's okay, Richard. Cosy drove into a schoolyard in a Mercedes. That's probably going to get some ticks, but we were always looking at getting young people to transition into VET, into apprenticeships. So because that's not always going to be an option, there are obviously challenges in getting school students also to consider an apprenticeship sometimes. So in terms of tips that you might give or things to be aware of when approaching schools, what would you say would be helpful?
Firstly, it was Matt, that not Cosy. Cosy drives around in a big car with his face on the side.
Sorry.
And he has his charity function with us every year. That's why we know each other. We do it for him. Don't punish students and send them to an apprenticeship and traineeship, because a lot of schools, it's almost becomes a last resort, that they're not good at maths, so they send them off to a vocation. Quite the reverse, you know, it's something that, yes, you have a different skill set, but you know, many small business owners starting off doing an apprenticeship. I think telling more stories about the success from apprenticeships, from people who are now running the businesses. There's a guy, I saw that last week, I think it was, who had done an apprenticeship in electrical, I think, and has now got a massive electrical company and doing massive contracts. I think just continuing to tell those success stories from people that weren't punished, that went into something they're interested in, did really well. And I think young people aspire, but real people, not, I mean, a lot of people, and it's not the worst thing, but they'll use a media celebrity who's never done an apprenticeship or whatever to tell a nice story. Get someone that's done it, that's succeeded, and has got a really great story. And I think that can go across every industry. There's lots of people out there.
Actually, that's very good. Focusing on the positive is probably the best sell. Thank you, gentlemen. That was really great. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So we're a little bit over time, but not too much. It's afternoon tea time, which is available for you in the foyer. About 30 minutes, but when you hear the bell, if you could start to make your way in. In the time outside, some of you always we all gravitate to people we know, but I think some of what we've learnt today is it's good to meet new people, take the opportunity to network, and if you see someone standing by themselves, maybe make a friend. Enjoy the break and each other's company. I'll see you soon. back, everyone. Welcome back to the room. Welcome back, live streamers. I hope you enjoyed that short break and met some new people, maybe spotted some of our staff that had the Skilling South Australia logos on their T-shirts, and I know some people have got some follow-ups to do now with some of you in the room, so that's a really good thing. Just to, I guess, respond to another question that Emma's going to help me with here. A number of people have said in some of their Slidos, and I know that it's a general concern. Adrienne spoke about it earlier, about, you know, how do you sell trainees and apprenticeships, what can be done to just make it more attractive, and of course promotional opportunities that we may be able to utilise ourselves as part of that support for RTOs and employers to consider, you know, let's look at traineeships and apprenticeships. So we do have a promotional video that is going to be seen quite regularly, I think, from now on, that we just would like to share with you. So if you just want to hold on to your seats to do that, it won't take too long, but just see, I think it's quite attractive.
We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia.
I was just settling in then, never mind, that's okay, that was good, but I like it, short, snappy, it looks good. And I think you'll see lots of different things as the year rolls out. We're very lucky to have Wendy Perry here this afternoon, who's just finished presenting in one location and has decided to do a little bit more on a Friday afternoon in another, so that's a big effort on her part. I'd like to introduce Wendy, for those of you that don't know. She's the Entrepreneur Facilitator for Adelaide. I hope I get this right and the commas are in the right place. West, Switch, Start, Scale and Managing Director of Workforce Blueprint. She's an entrepreneur and educator, innovator and leader, speaker and writer on entrepreneurship and innovation, workforce planning and development, vocational education and training, and TVET.
That's like VET internationally.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know that one. International Capability and Capacity Development. Her presentation will focus on collaboration, entrepreneurship and innovation in VET. I'm going to hand over to Wendy, and at the end there'll be an opportunity for questions. Again, we're opening up a little bit more now for Slido, especially for the people that are not in the room, and also a couple of roving mics as well for those that maybe would like to have a hand up and have a microphone handed to them, and Emma and Marina will take care of that. But I look forward to hearing Wendy's presentation. I'll leave her in your hands. Am I right?
Thank you. So, you know, this topic, entrepreneurship and innovation, I was thinking about what I should prepare for this afternoon, and this space moves so quickly, so even a presentation that you might have done last week or the week before can potentially be out of date. But I went back to thinking about an educational sort of experience, and I wanted to just quickly share this story with you. So if you were with me on the 12th of December 2018, so only just last year, you would have been at Brighton High School. It's a Friday morning, and I was sitting in the front row of the theatre. It was packed out. There were 80 to 90 students, all of the educators and teachers, there were industry and employers. There was a panel of judges sitting in the front row. And we had 12 student teams about to pitch the solution, the amazing, product or service that they had developed over a week. And this model was businesses, industry, government employers had pitched a problem on the Monday morning. Students had hustled and formed teams, and they got as far as they possibly could by that Friday. And they were pitching back to a panel of judges, a bit like Shark Tank. Has everyone seen that show? Yeah? Cool. So I was facilitating this with a young guy who is on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. He's only 21, a little bit younger than me. So we're sitting there waiting for these pictures, and we saw some amazing, students coming up with such cool ideas. Things that the businesses and industry partners have in fact implemented now or taken further. And then there was one team that came up. And this team, you might sort of be familiar, sometimes might have this in your training organisation. It's like the naughty ones, or the ones that are really hard to engage, the ones that are incredibly tough. And they got up on stage, and before they even shared the problem that they are addressing, this young woman said, "There's been some amazing presentations." And I thought, she's starting out well. But you know what it's like as a facilitator, you're thinking, where's this going to go to next? It's not always easy. You struggle with, what's going to happen in situations like this. And she said, "I want to apologise." And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Right? She said, "I want to apologise because our solution is," and she said this word, but I'm just going to spell it for you, S-H-I-T. Now, I had judges sitting in the front row, the CEO of Food Bank, Stuart Snyder, who is an investor that had a dot-com company back in the 90s, cashed out of that, sold it for millions of dollars. Another woman who's exporting meat all around the country. A woman who works in a startup that's multi-award winning in the aged care industry. And when this young woman said that, you should have seen the reaction from the judges. They gasped, they were shocked. The guy from Food Bank SA, his head nearly twizzled off of his shoulders. They were looking at me saying, are you going to let this continue? And everyone was just trying to process, okay, principles there, you're thinking, oh my goodness. Then she went on to say the solution is the solar hotspot integrated toilet. And building and construction company had pitched an idea to them about how do you solve theft on building sites. This team had figured out the toilet that gets delivered on building sites. It's there all the time. No one's going to want to probably steal the portable toilet, do you think? So they integrated with a modem and camera. They hustled with Telstra, with another company. They got all the equipment, and their solution was up and running by the Wednesday night, and they were live streaming footage. They continued on with their presentation after we all got over that heart racing, and they in fact came second. The panel of judges were just so impressed with their solution. And you might be thinking, well, Wendy, this is a high school example. It might not be relevant. We're in vocational education and training and higher ed. But think of these students as your future students. They're the future of, where we're going to draw participants from. And the reality is our students are completely ready for entrepreneurial experiences like this. They've actually been ready for this for a number of years. It's whether we're ready, and we do put up objections and barriers around regulation and training packages and all the constraints. But I'd challenge anyone, because there's so many industry areas that you could, in fact, if you're not already doing this, embed an entrepreneurial education experience or approach where your students are solving real-world problems for employers and industry. And the impression that those students gave to those employers was just astounding. They've offered to work with them and continue to take this on. And there might be some people in the room thinking, is this educationally sound? What sort of methodology or model are we talking about here? What underpins all of these entrepreneurial education experiences, and this is not just about starting your own business, from a workforce planning and development point of view, every single employer, every industry, doesn't matter what country you're in, we work with about 30 countries around the world now, they all want an entrepreneurial mindset, someone who can seek problems, who can get to a minimum viable product with a solution as quick as possible, who is customer focused and orientated, who can communicate with influence and bring people along with them and work in a team. So if you're not yet familiar with this model, it's the Lean Startup Canvas. And it's used to underpin Startup Weekend growth hacks, which is like that week that we did at Brighton High. They called it Bright Tank. If you haven't yet seen this model, or you haven't yet started to apply it in whatever units of competency you might be delivering, check this out, and you can get a version where it has the numbers of the order, but essentially we go for the problem. We go for the problem first. And you might be thinking, well, I don't know, maybe this is just some weird and wacky kind of experience. Perhaps it's something that, young kids like. What about the students that you might work with or the employers that you work with? And you might not think that there's sort of evidence that this is actually, an important priority or an important thing. So let's look at some of that evidence. We have a chief entrepreneur in South Australia. It's Jim Wally from the defence industry from Nova Systems. He's been appointed by the current government, and he heads up the Office of the Chief Entrepreneur. Prior to that, we had a chief innovator in our state, and we had Tech in SA. We actually have bipartisan agreement on entrepreneurship and innovation, underpinned by collaboration, being a massive priority from a government point of view, from a business and industry point of view too. Now, I have to say that it's not absolutely a unique idea about our chief entrepreneur, because we did get it from Queensland. Queensland have had a chief entrepreneur. They've had 3 of them now. Leanne Kemp is the current chief entrepreneur. She runs a blockchain company that looks at the authenticity of diamonds. This is such a good business. And art and wine. And before that, we had Steve Baxter from Shark Tank. Our government is currently developing a strategic focus and strategy on entrepreneurship and innovation called FIXI. I don't know if anyone's seen this strategy. And we also have a research, commercialisation and startup fund with 3 streams in it. So for startups, early seed sort of capital for scale-ups, and also to support the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We were just saying before how well networked South Australia is, and I've taken this slide. There's a presentation that happens every month at different co-working places around Adelaide on the introduction to the startup scene and the entrepreneurial ecosystem. The last one that they did at Lot 14 at the old RAH had over 120 people coming along to it. And there's a key message when you get towards the end of this presentation that says how well networked we are, and it says that you've got to be pitch ready, because you never know who you're going to meet. And obviously it's our former Premier, and then they do this. Don't freak out, Marina. Yeah. We have mapped our South Australian entrepreneurial ecosystem since 2014. We were the first state to do it. And there is actually so much happening. We have more than 100 co-working spaces in our state. There's incubators, accelerators, education programs, industry events like you wouldn't believe. And if you just think this is just activity with no outcome, just recently the ANZ released some stats to show that South Australia is above trend and accelerating. Our momentum is really going forward in this space. And, we're a little bit competitive with the states and territories, aren't we? So South Australia, we're the most collaborative state, and it's really showing. The Commonwealth agree. Some of you, if we're connected on LinkedIn, you might have seen that just recently the Department of Jobs and Small Business put out a tender last year for 20 entrepreneurship facilitators around the country. And the company that I run, Workforce Blueprint, we won the one for Adelaide West. There's another one in York, Barossa and Mid-North with Mark Sheesby. This is one-on-one coaching and mentoring, networking events, City of Entrepreneur tours, how-to workshops. I just came from a back-of-the-napkin lunch where we had an investor there revealing all the kind of secrets about how to get ready for investment. We have Get Stuff Done sessions. There's so much happening, but one of the things that I don't see very much is my vet friends and my higher ed friends at this sort of stuff. So, just quickly, could you have a tap to the person next to you? And I know that you might be thinking, well, I'm not sure how I'd actually do this or how we could implement it, but can you have a really quick 2-minute chat? What needs to happen for entrepreneurial experiences, those educational-based growth hacks, real-world problem solving, engaging industry employers on those problems? What needs to happen so that you could do this with your vet programs? Quick chat. All right, everybody, I need you to wrap up your chats. So if we could wrap up your chats just for the moment. I saw some shrugging shoulders, but I did see lots of people having conversations, so hopefully that started some ideas. I wanted to share with you a little bit about this notion of entrepreneurship and innovation in those different contexts, starting your own business as an entrepreneur for your employer, or solving social problems. Thinking about that broader entrepreneurial mindset and capability. It's the here and now employability skills, right? That's really what we're talking about. And last year we were lucky enough to do a piece of work for the United Nations where we researched entrepreneurial education in Australia and we benchmarked against a dozen countries. And I was lucky enough to go to Bangkok and also to Korea. Korea, I don't know if anyone's been there, that stuff in terms of makerspace and electronics is like next level nuts. But when we were comparing Australia, what we found is that entrepreneurial education, these sort of incubator, accelerator, fast track programs, using that lean startup canvas, heaps of it sits in non-accredited space, startup land, you know, that sort of area. Universities, if they haven't got it now, all of them are embedding entrepreneurship into their degrees, and some of them are making it mandatory, like Flinders, for example. Why? There's a bit happening in schools too, and we included the entrepreneurial specialist schools in the state. You know, we have 5 of them. That's something that a lot of people are watching too. But do you think we could find many examples in VET? No, like less than a handful. Now, there is a wonderful quote that in some research that NCVR has done that says that the highest number of inventors, in fact, come from an apprenticeship and traineeship pathway. And, you know, being a former trainee, employing apprentices and trainees, I think that's fantastic. But have we made this explicit, obvious connection that we easily could? All these other countries have had entrepreneurial capabilities embedded in their curriculum, and these are developing countries. They're countries that look up to Australia. They've had it embedded in their equivalent of training packages and curriculum for like 10, 15 years. They all have a 5-year rolling vision and plan for VET. They're astounded that we don't. And look, there's lots of other examples of what you can do. This is a 2-day growth hack up in Mildura where there was employers from agriculture, transport, logistics, hospitality, tourism, horticulture, pitching business problems. These were students from a whole bunch of institutions, about 80 or 90 of them. They formed teams, they hustled, they pitched back. Lean startup was underpinning it. And the other thing I just want to highlight, which universities and higher ed seem to be doing quite well, is the student real-world project model. So I don't know if you know, but Study Adelaide fund a program for international students in the January break and in the July break. This is a team that I had of students all from different countries. Mostly they're doing masters or above training and qualifications. They choose to do this program to get those, you know, modern day employability skills. And for 3 weeks they work intensively on a program, and they develop the marketing strategy for Switch, Start, Scale. And this is all free for you as the industry partner, actually. And their work was astounding. There was a little moment where I had to ask them to do a little bit more, but at the end it was absolutely fantastic. And we should all be tapping into these sorts of opportunities or thinking about how we can do this in the delivery of our programs. School-based apprenticeships. I don't know why every training organisation, every small, medium-sized enterprise does not have a school-based apprentice. This is Alex, who started with us a few years ago, and her job role is business digital assistant. Anything social media, web, email, database, research, booking travel, events, all that kind of stuff. For her, in a really interesting job, you know, for me, a headache. The difference that she made to the business is just astounding, and we're about to, we've employed a number over the years, but we're about to employ another couple. We pay above award wage for this. And it's not driven by the incentives, it's because what they can do, because they naturally understand all of this stuff is just transformational for your organisation. If you haven't yet come on a City of Entrepreneur tour, under the Switch Start Scale banner, they are free, and we've got one coming up on the 9th of July. We've had 1 or 2 RTO friends come on the tour. You see inside the entrepreneurial ecosystem and people generally are amazed about what's actually happening there. So, as a final little chat, these kind of entrepreneurial capabilities and skills that we're talking about, which sometimes can be opposite to what training packages say, to be honest, because entrepreneurs break rules, they don't follow policies and procedures, they hustle, they growth hack, they get the solution as far as they can, as quick as possible, they pitch, they validate with customers and they go problem seeking. So how can we ensure these sort of programs, if they're not already, that they're embedded into your offerings and what you're running? So just a quick chat on that topic, and then let's see if we've got some questions. Hey, how are you? All right, everybody, if you could wrap up your chat. So if you could wrap up your chat, everybody, that would be fantastic. And look, we've just got a couple of minutes in case there's some questions. So if you want to ask a question, there's a mic that you can, and there's also questions on Slido. So are there any quick questions that people would like to ask? What's that? What's a growth hack? Okay, well, yeah. So a growth hack is usually used in a marketing and sales context, but essentially what you do is you get as many sales as you possibly can in a short space of time. So it's not, if you're talking about a growth hack more broadly applied to a business, you pick some key problems and you get a solution as far as you possibly can. So with those students at Bright Tank over the week or over the 2 days, problems pitched, growth hack it, get it as far as you possibly can, validate it with customers, as far developed as possible. But growth hack would be like maybe you probably do it intuitively where you've got to get stuff out, or you've got to make sales, or you've got to, get social media spiking, whatever it might be. Yeah. Another question? Yeah. Yes.
Do you want to wait for the mic?
Sure, wait for the, yeah.
I've got a loud voice. Yes. Okay. The young lady that's doing your social media, how does that work if they're at school? Is it, do they spend 1 day a week with you, or it's 1 day a week?
It's 1 day a week, and she basically pulls together all the content. So we do some social media scheduling a week in advance. We use a tool called Hootsuite, and then we naturally post every day as well. So she is generally doing the week in advance Hootsuite scheduling of social media posts of other people's contents, or maybe we've done videos or blogs, or we've got events coming up.
So is there anything that she's missing out at school on that day, or is there a schedule?
No, the schedule, so you negotiate the schedule, they drop a subject, and they're basically, in this model, they're doing a Certificate 3 in business, which gives them 60 SACE points, and they need 200. So actually by doing that, they usually get way more SACE points than what they need. And sometimes they might do workplace practices or other complementary subjects. So their assessments or assignments that they do for the units of competency are all totally relevant and sort of putting that other stuff into practice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Was there another question? Down here? Yeah. Well, we need to definitely need to design more entrepreneurial education experiences, and we probably need to figure out what units of competency lend itself to this. So it depends upon what industry, what level. But in every single qualification, there is units that you could do more of an entrepreneurial experience, or at least real-world problem solving, where your employers and industry come in and pitch that problem, or you might be able to cluster units of competency together. And if this is something that you want to do, then follow up with the department, because we could maybe have a look at how do you actually design entrepreneurial, innovative experiences like this in your specific context of what you're delivering. Any other questions?
Just one.
One, yep.
It answers a couple, but
Yeah.
even though it's at the bottom. So that sort of builds on the question that's just been answered, but if you could just give an example of those skills being included, not so much in an apprenticeship, but in a unit of competency. It can be in an apprenticeship, of course. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'll just pick one that I worked with more recently in agriculture and horticulture, and I guess anything that's business related clearly lends itself to this, particularly if it's project management or something at diploma or advanced diploma. But at a lower level, at Certificate 3, in ag and hort sort of space, there's units of competency about understanding all of the scientific sort of elements of that, the soil, the weeds, the plants, the pests and things like that. So this training organisation had developed partnership with growers and farmers, where the students get sort of given a problem from those employers and go out on site to actually solve that problem, but come up with solutions or suggestions on how they could actually better manage that. That's just one sort of simple solution or example. Any other quick questions? Thank you so much for having me, and I guess if you can be anything, be kind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for sharing that with us. It was actually quite inspiring and a little bit of a call to action, I guess, for vet practitioners and people running those organisations in RTO world to start thinking a little bit more about the new workforce, the new learner, and how vet can respond and be part of that solution, I guess, to what is a very quickly changing world. Thank you for that. There are a lot of other questions here as well, and as I mentioned earlier, we will be responding to all of them. And you'll get an email with every question answered. We have our final speaker today, who's literally flown in through the door, but Madeline Richardson, our Executive Director at Skills, Workforce and Capability with the department, is here to respond to a question that all our RTOs always want to know, and that is, can you keep us updated, keep us informed? So she's kindly come from one event to another to do that with you. Thanks, Madeline.
Hey, hi everybody, and afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here, so this was a priority no matter what's happening in the diary today. I would also like to acknowledge that we're on Kaurna land today, super important as we celebrate Reconciliation Week. And for anybody that missed out on the Reconciliation Breakfast earlier this week, there was an incredibly powerful address from Associate Professor Chelsea Bond, which I'm assured will be on her website. If you haven't had a chance, or you didn't get a chance to be there, it's incredibly powerful and really responds to the theme of Reconciliation Week, which is about being grounded in truth and courage. Thank you everyone for being here today, both everybody in the room and those with us virtually as well. Special mention to my colleagues for all the work and energy that goes into today. Emma, Juliana and Marina, your contribution is absolutely acknowledged and appreciated. So you said in your feedback that you were wanting to be kept up to date on all things policy, and that we in Skills and Workforce Capability and DIS share some of our insights. So today I'm going to walk you through a few of those. The first is some early analysis around future-proofing. I know you heard from Adrienne earlier, so I just want to walk through where we're at with that. All things review of the Training Skills Development Act. We're at an interesting point in time with Skilling South Australia projects, so I'm keen to share that. A bit of an update on the subsidised training list and also where to next with provider development. Before I launch, I also wanted to share with you a couple of key questions that really form part of our, and are central to our decision making, which I think sort of tries to respond to what you're looking for in terms of some insights. And also in that spirit of feedback, if you're looking for more or less or something that's different from today, share that feedback as well. So a couple of those questions that are prominent in all of our discussions and decision making. So I'll start with, does this set up success for the future? It's super easy to be reactive when there is a lot going on and when you are busy, and to think about the immediate and the short term. I want to give you some assurance that at every moment, every possible moment, we are examining what the future is and will be demanding, and constantly thinking about what you are telling us will be important about that. We're also responding to the question of whether it can be sustained, whatever it is. In an environment that's often changing with policy, different directions and funding, we need to look at what can deliver lasting impact. We also ask ourselves whether we're delivering change. The status quo is comfortable, it's a nice and cosy place. Sometimes it's easier to stay there as well. What's much harder is to design and implement sustainable and lasting change. I appreciate that there are trade-offs to delivering change. However, constant improvement, adjustment and learning to deliver that impact and results is an imperative. And lastly, and this one's really close to my heart, which is, are we asking of ourselves what we are asking of others? Which speaks to culture, perspective and attitude. It also requires active listening and collaboration. It's a central value to within DIS and for me as well. So moving to some of the update areas. So you've heard all things from Adrienne, so I'm not going to cover that ground, but what I will touch on is that we are actively undertaking analysis of the report to inform a formal response. Early areas of alignment that we've observed in the report certainly are about in the repair and support themes, speaking to the collaboration with the Department for Education. It was really evident in that report that there was recommendations about, and we've just heard a little bit more about a school-based apprenticeship, but both flexible and school-based apprenticeships that respond to the needs of both the school, the student and the employer as well. So we are working closely with the Department of Education on where we can support those positive outcomes. Under that promote theme, as you probably saw when you walked in today, and hopefully you've seen either online or on a bus shelter somewhere, is how we encourage promotion. And so that your passion theme is up and live and really trying to do that. Our target audience is career seekers in the first instance. We're also working on further engagement with employers and with providers as well. In the first instance, we want to present the value to those career seekers and promote it through our Your Passion campaign. Under the reform theme, you probably have seen or heard a little bit about today, employer registration. We've made some early improvements. There's more work to do. So we know we want to make sure it's as simple as possible and really importantly that it's about the customer. We're also working closely with industry skills councils through industry plans to increase awareness and use of apprenticeships and traineeships. And of course, a number of the recommendations do touch on and intersect with the review of the Training and Skills Development Act, which I'll move to now. That Act came into operation about 10 years ago. And I guess if you think about the rapid pace of technology and change, 10 years, a lot has shifted. The dial has moved. The nature of skill and work requirements have significantly changed, and we need to ensure that our Act is as up-to-date as possible to support the growth of future industries, whether it's digital or cyber or defence. So we have engaged an external advisory panel, and as you would have seen, the review of the Act was launched, and we are now into a 4-week public consultation period. And through that consultation, feedback's being sought on a handful of areas, including the functions, roles and responsibilities in that Act, how we can promote apprenticeship and traineeship pathways, and also reviews of obligations of apprentices, employers and training providers. I encourage you all to get involved, and it's super easy to do. You can jump on the Your Say website, and there are lots of ways you can get involved. You can join the online discussion, you can send in a written submission, there are forums that will be held as well, and there are also online webinars if you can't make it to one of those forums. Shifting to the Skilling South Australia guidelines and the insights so far. So we kicked off the guidelines on the 7th of September, and you've already heard today about some projects that emerged through co-design. So we're now up to over 50 projects that have been approved and are underway, but we really importantly have to look at what do we set out to do and where are we in relation to those projects. And that comes from your feedback, it comes from seeking other ideas about ways we can best deliver on our goals. And so a couple of things have emerged. One is we're confident that the project sort of pathway has enabled some innovation and ideas to emerge. However, in some instances, the project has been seen as a bit of a default pathway, whereas we know there's a suite of tools or options that could be available. So accessing the subsidised training list, or thinking about whether equipped for work, or removing some barriers through access to accommodation and travel or travel support is a better fit. So we want to make sure that you can find the pathway that suits you when we're talking about projects. We're also really reflecting on the experience of proponents and making sure that it's accessible and well suited to your needs. We know that people are often time poor. We know that it can be intensive. We want to make sure we get it right and that it leads to a lasting impact as well. And the other thing that we're reflecting on is the significant value in, I know it's a bit of a bureaucratic term, but the discovery phase, right? So when we sit down together and start to understand your issues better and understand your industry better, that has opened up our eyes to other barriers and challenges that might not have been as evident before. So we want to make sure we're really responsive to those. Linking back to one of my earlier themes, sustainability is also a really key criteria. How do we kickstart a new model or pilot approach with a view to growing apprenticeships with for the long term within an organisation or an industry sector? We are looking at an update and refresh of those guidelines, and I'll ensure that information is passed through this network as well. In relation to the subsidised training list, our recent improvements, as this room would be well aware, and online, in delivering the training priorities list and the Skilling South Australia training and apprenticeship list reflected our commitment to continuous improvement and opening up the courses and places across the system. The focus for 2019-20 will be on maintaining that market stability, still with that focus on access and choice as well. We're thinking about 5.0, the STL release, as striking a really important balance between those things. We all know that the previous release supported more than 700 quals being available, and that strong focus on traineeship and apprenticeship pathways also becoming clearer. We've seen some good growth and we want to capitalise on that. In relation to all things building capability, the full program is almost nearly all online, and online registrations are available to a whole range of things. Breakfasts, if that's your thing, obviously the webinars, masterclasses, and building business and leadership by attending the half-day RTO business workshop. I'm so pleased so far that we've received more than 200 registrations from over 100 organisations to attend those professional development events. That's fantastic and encourages us to keep doing more as well. I encourage you to make your time available to register yourself and share that information within your organisation as well. I think there's information here today about that. We look forward to sharing the outcomes of the projects also with the sector. That's a responsibility we have and you have to keep sharing that. So in closing, and I know I'm standing probably between you and an early minute today as well, but our efforts in DIS and through Skilling South Australia reflect our commitment to investing in skills for the future by driving growth through traineeships and apprenticeships to connect training with employment outcomes. To draw a link to one of my earlier questions about asking of yourself, what are you asking of others? I think the ask today is really about partnerships, engagement and collaboration to improve practice and build capability. The forums today are a really important opportunity to share knowledge, develop goals and collaborate. And so I want to thank you for your time today and your commitment, your ongoing commitment. And I really hope you enjoy your afternoon and evening and weekend. Thank you. Hi.
Stay where you are.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Madeline. There are two questions.
Yeah.
Now, excuse me. You can read them, and I'm not sure if you can answer them both or not, but you're pretty clever. So,
School-based after additional incentives.
or I can throw.
So there's a question about incentives for school-based. Look, I'd say that's a pretty live space at the moment. As I said, our partnership with DE is looking at getting how we get feedback from schools in particular about what works best. There's learner support that is in place already, and there's some support that schools offer too. So there are different arrangements based on different schools, I guess policies as well. And the other question is about need permanent staff. However, industries like hospitality require casual contracts. Look, the thing I think I would say in relation to casualisation is one of the opportunities we have through Skilling South Australia is to think about where industries can come together where traditionally they haven't been able to sustain or deliver the training for an apprentice or trainee because of just the nature of their industry. So creative is a really great example where the nature of a project might be a couple of months or 6 months, which isn't long enough to sustain or to support what an apprentice needs. And there's lots of industries that face that as well. So what we're encouraging is, can industries come together and join up those opportunities to fulfil the requirements for an apprentice or trainee? So that's perhaps a question I'll leave to this audience to contemplate. Are there opportunities we're missing where through that industry collaboration, that opportunity could be offered and can really help that growth and innovation that we're talking about? Great, thank you.
Well, that must have been a good update. Because there are no further questions. But if you think of them, by all means add them, and we'll respond to them later, as I said before, through Slido, which is open still, even though our presentations are actually complete for the afternoon. You've been a very good audience. I just did want to pitch something, though. You've seen these outside. They're around different things, group training organisations, apprenticeship brokers, a whole range of things. This one, though, is very important to us because it's about your professional development opportunities. Not that it's any more important than the others, it's just something I want you to pay attention to. So pick one up. Some of you know where to go already. If it's not on your table, it might be in your bag, it'll certainly be outside. And look for some of those opportunities to engage in a professional sense. Now, I can hear your rustling, but just a minute. Yeah, oh, sorry, you can rustle. So just a few other things, though. We asked this last time, and that is why we had the agenda that we had today. So we would like you, through Slido, if you can, please, to just let us know if this forum met your expectations. We're happy with it, and we did it because of the responses that were provided last time. But if it did, fabulous. If it did, we actually would like to know why, a little bit more work. And if it didn't, we're quite happy to hear why as well and what you would like to see. It's the best way that we can do an even better job next time. Do you see? Even better. The other thing too is what you would like to see in the next forum. So if you go back to the first one, that was a real introduction to the department really, which I think was a pretty good afternoon. Today is a little bit more focused on RTO, World and Vet, and changes that you might experience in that new learning environment, if I can call it that is VET. But, you know, what would you like to hear next? What would you like the one in August to be? Because there will be one in August and it'll be here that afternoon. So we can only be guided by you. We'd really rather not try and make it up ourselves. We found it much easier using your feedback to create today's presentations and agendas, and luckily people came up and said, yeah, okay, we'll do that for you. So, but really, that's what you wanted. The last thing, I think, Emma, is Emma, who's, I can't keep telling enough people how fantastic she is, but not only that, she is the new contact for all things professional development from our department, for two reasons. One is because she's very good at what she does, but also because Marina is leaving us and I'm not allowed, oh, there she is. I'm not allowed to say anything, so I won't, but TAFE are very lucky. They now have a new Director of Teaching and Learning in a week's time, and that's Marina Borrello. So I would say it's a loss to us. It's not really, because we know exactly where she is and we are all very well connected with her one way or another. So thank you, Marina, for getting us this far. But we do have a good team and lots of people in the division that we can keep this work going. So thank you for today. Please don't leave without the feedback, please. And I think that's everything. So thanks for your attention. Nice afternoon. Thank you.
We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia. We're unlocking hundreds of skilled career opportunities in all kinds of industries. If you're ready to earn while you learn, follow your passion and start an apprenticeship now. A message from the Government of South Australia.